So the final thing that I wanted to talk about then
is not on our notes. We're going off the cuff today.
There.
This is a wild one.
I've added it. I've added it back. If you go to the actual stream notes page, it's now there.
Okay.
Survival Hunter, the meme spec that
sure.
I decided to play based on
Based on your
based on recommendations from people of like, hey, this is actually in gameplay scenarios, this is banging fun.
Yep.
And here's that thing. I did not include SV in our Hunter video like earlier this year to make a fucking point because it got bug fixes and stuff, but I was just sitting there being like, really? Why don't we have new talents? Why don't we have like what many other specs in the game got moving into Shadowlands? Because SV has got a pretty cool base, some pretty cool talents, but it just needed to be advanced so much more. So I'm still salty at that. However, I was salty at that, and there are holes in our kit that would make it hard to justify versus me going MM in the raid, I think.
Yeah.
Especially just the benefits of being ranged, and it's not a particularly melee-friendly tier. But...
Is any tier, really?
Is any tier, yeah. But SV100's really fun. And Wildfire Infusion, I mean, we said this back when it came out in BFA, but it is one of the best design talents in the game.
I think it still all basically might be. It is so
really cool.
It is so much gameplay, so interesting. It's like it shouldn't be a talent. It should be baseline, 100%.
I think if you're playing SV Hunter with a good reaction time to things, you can have some just really cool fantasy-driven, not driven, but fantastical gameplay. As an example, you're fighting a boss, you got to move away from the boss. So you move away from the boss with a disengage, you activate Aspect of the Eagle, you've got 15 seconds of doing full DPS at range, and then, maybe the boss's ability, whatever has changed or gone, you can go back in, and now you're closing with Harpoon. Or, you want to move quickly from there to there. So you disengage away and then Harpoon over to the mob you want to get to. I mean, your ability to, let's just say, I don't know, there's an ad spawning, and you've got to get over there quick. You can like, boom, Harpoon. That is cool. Their movement kit is so cool. And then in AoE, there are like little intricacies. Like you'll want to spread your Serpent Sting around so that when you get green bomb, you can throw it. But you don't just blindly throw your green bomb. You want to, because the bomb hits and then explodes in an arc.
That's a cone, yeah.
So the cone. So you need to line up, where you're hitting that. So there's like a little bit of precision there.
It's one of the very, very few abilities that you actually kind of have to aim in World of Warcraft slightly. Not aim in any move your mouse or anything, but it's literally just, you have to focus on who you're hitting with it. Which, is, I think that's basically unheard of because, everything else is usually just AoE cursor or around you, which is, a bit less interesting than actually aiming it and you're kind of playing a little bit of snooker or a little bit of pool with it. As opposed to, am I standing in the middle of all the mobs?
So then you're weaving that with your carves or maybe a butchery or it's butchery, isn't it?
Butchery's the
it's butchery,
talented one. Yeah, don't use that.
Is it not? It's not
I don't
good.
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
But it's just really cool. Now it's got holes, it has issues or whatever, but it's fundamentally just a really cool design. And running around the world content, disengage off a cliff, harpoon down to a mob in Korthia, kind of feel like you're pretty cool.
Yep.
Throw in a grappling hook, and then you're just this kind of crazy master of getting around the place. So yeah, it's really good. And funny enough, it's not like S tier, but it's pretty good this season.
I mean, all of the numbers line up, so it's strong now. It scales a bit better than it did in 9.0.
So I don't think it's the sort of thing where I can actually go and take it into raid, because maybe my two raid leaders, one of whom is over there, will murder me if I do so. But I'm looking forward big time to doing it in Mythic Plus.
Yeah,
it's definitely big time looking forward to it in Plus.
Definitely, it's a simple spec, but Wildfire Infusion makes everything tick. It makes everything work. It is like the thing where it's not super, not incredible in terms of how complicated it is or how much big a brain you have to do. It is literally just, here are a very small set of mechanics that interact in an interesting way. Where it's like, this is all in my head surrounding Wildfire Infusion, where it is literally, depending on the color of bomb, you have different gameplay priorities, and there is almost nothing else in the game that feels the same way. The only similarities are changing priorities on single cooldowns or on target types, there's nothing that has that little rotational feel.
Yeah.
And this is going to be weird, or not. It reminds me of how FF jobs are designed. In that you've got those little phasey bits where you're like, okay, well, now I'm doing this.
Gotcha, yeah.
I have changed my priorities. I'm now doing this. Or
Yeah,
I've got something else to think about. I've got upcoming things to think about, which is a lot different than just I have cooldown windows coming up.
Yeah.
Or I need to know which button to keep on cooldown.
That's like anytime I use my bomb, it'll give me one of the other 2 bombs as my next bomb.
Yeah, so you have time to plan around
So
it.
I have time to plan around it. I'm going to get something a little bit different each time, and I can play around that. And just even little things like, in multi-target, you're like, cool, I can spread my Serpent Sting, use Green Bomb to do a big explode.
Yeah.
Or in single target, I can just hold on because I'm using Wildfire Infusion. The one that gives you two charges of the bomb.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, cool, I've got a Green Bomb there. Right, so I can save a global having to use Serpent Sting by just waiting until because I have enough of a buffer because I have 2 charges of the bomb to refresh my Serpent Sting on time. And I'm like, oh, this is really nice. Really just neat, elegant design.
Yep, it is fantastic, and it really annoys me that it gets the short end of the stick because it's like its melee hunter doesn't have the same tools that other like melees have to survive because you give them to hunters and then hunters are bullshit strong. So it's like I'd love to see them get a little bit more love, but I'd love to get them see more love in some talent changes, Wildfire Infusion baseline, and maybe prioritize it a little bit better. But I feel like you can play that spec in a way that's completely boring. Like if you run Tip of the Spear, no Wildfire Infusion, or even if you go Mongoose Bite and suddenly you're playing with Mongoose Bite and Wildfire Infusion and your pheromones are there and kill commands constantly resetting, but your globals are interacting with each other in the bad way. That's the thing that really bugs me about like how you can basically pick wrong, annoying gameplay.
You can anti-game design it with your talent choices, which is not super ideal.
You can. It's like the talents in some cases in World of Warcraft are like, you go to a buffet, you can choose what you want, and you can in fact have a dish that is just. Well, I'm trying to think of what else. I'm trying to think of how to do this. You could have a slice of cake and then dump a load of rice over the top of it. You could do that with some talents. But, you can also have something good. Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's most of what I wanted to talk about with SV Hunter. I just think it's cool. So, I'm having fun, and I'm looking forward quite a bit to the new stuff. Now, that said, I'm not exactly looking forward to, if I get any issues cropping up with, any issues cropping up with, like, the Covenants, and the swapping, and the soul binds, and ugh. But, all of that design junk aside, the core of it's actually quite fun, and I'm looking forward to doing M+ with it. And it's a great season to get started with M+. So I'm pretty excited for that, actually.
I will say this. I actually felt a decent pang of jealousy whenever I was watching you play in Korthia and SV Hunter, because I'm doing it as Ret. And Ret has some stuff to think about, especially if you're running Final Reckoning Execution Sentence. You have a really nice window to line up around. But beyond that, it is literally just like the mini game that is playing Ret is deciding which of your buttons are available to either build or spend holy power, and then watching to make sure you don't waste any cooldowns coming up. Yeah. So it is such a tiny mini game by comparison to having to think about your wildfire infusions coming in and stuff like that. It is very definitely jealous. Definitely jealous.
Some cool stuff.
Yeah, it's like it's like Survival Hunter is kind of what Arms Warrior should be in a way.
Yeah.
The way Arms Warrior is like, oh well, here's your overpower and your Colossus smashes up. What do you do? And you're just like, I hit the buttons available to me. That's what I do.
Yeah. So hopefully I'll get better at it over time, but it's like I'm pretty jazzed in the whole thing, to be honest. So it's gonna be fun, like just taking it into some proper content.